Good afternoon, Hope TV family, and welcome to season 6 of Forever Young. How are you today? First of all, Happy New Year. I'm your host, David Linton, and it's a pleasure to be with you and see you again. Can you believe it's been 6 seasons since we started this journey? Wow, we've gone through so much and we've accomplished so much and learned so much. And you know what? Season 6 plans to be as exciting as the previous 5. Of course, I could not do this show without my 2 wonderful co-hosts. Of course, we call her beautiful. She is the one and only Miss Jean Hendricks. Good afternoon, Jean.
Good afternoon, David, and Happy New Year to you also. I am delighted to be again to share this post with you and Dr. Mitchell.
Dr. Sharon Mitchell, she's the one who she's the glue. I like to call her the glue. She keeps us all together, and she does a lot of the research on the programs that we put together. And so I'd like to say Happy New Year and great to see you too, Dr. Mitchell.
Happy New Year, David. And it's so good to be on the show again to share with our audience. We have some exciting things for you for this season. Great seeing you again. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, we do. We do have some exciting things. And, we always start this show off with something and a word of pearls from Jean, but it's a new year. And so with the new year, you know what? She had so much fun celebrating the end of 2021. She forgot to bring it this year. But you know what? That's almost setting the paradigm and the platform for today's subject. We're going to talk about something that's something that you hear more and more about today. Seems like you hear about it more than we ever did before. And that's dementia. We're going to be talking about something that's a subject that most people don't talk about, but it's something that's more and more, as I said, we hear more about. And we're so blessed to have Dr. Fayron Epps. She's a nurse with over 20 years of experience, and she currently serves as the assistant professor at Emory University, Neil Hogginson Woodruff School of Nursing, and the principal investigator of the Faith Village Research Lab. Now, Dr. Epps is an active member with numerous professional organizations, serves on the board of directors of the Southern Gerontological Society, Alzheimer's Association, Georgia chapter, and Meals on Wheels of Atlanta. She also serves as the leadership core of the Public Health Center of Excellence in Dementia Caregiving at the University of Minnesota. She has done so much, and she has so much. She also oversees several faith-based research projects, such as Faith Hat and Dementia Friendly online workshop. Her research has been sponsored by the federal and private funding agencies, and Dr. Epps and her interdisciplinary team partners with African American faith communities to provide them with necessary tools and resources needed to support families facing dementia. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Dr. Fayron Epps to Forever Young. How are you, Dr.?
I am doing good. Thank you for that introduction. Listening to it is like, whoa. But I'm glad to be here on Forever Young to talk about this important topic.
When I looked at what you did, we're really honored for you to be able to squeeze us in with all of the things that yes. you have to do. But, as I said in the introduction, dementia is something that we're hearing more and more about. It seems like it was something that you heard of every now and then. I don't know if it's because of, one, social media and media platforms brings everything closer to us. And so things that we heard about every now and then we're hearing more about, or is it something that's happening more? So we'd like for you to address dementia and how it relates to brain health, and why are we hearing so much about it now?
Yeah. So I think it's, thank you for that question. And I think it's all of that. right? People are now talking more about it, but then also it's
Mhm.
occurring more too because of things that are happening with us. And so it's really a great time for us to become more educated on it. So we can see that it is a condition that impacts folks across the lifespan. It's not just an old folks disease. It's not just old folks need to worry about it. Anyone can get dementia. You can get it as, we have people that's in their 20s and 30s that have been diagnosed with it. And then also, if you don't have dementia, you may be a family caregiver or a care partner, and you're still impacted, and you still need to know about the disease so you can be able to better support your family or friend that is living with dementia. So I just think it's very timely for us to talk about it. There's disparities within the Black community. And I always say this and I hate it because I'm so tired of hearing the disparities that exist in the Black community, but there are, and we need to work together so we can reverse the statistics, and so people can stop saying that this is a disparity. It drastically impacts the Black community, but Alzheimer's disease and dementia is one of those. We're twice more likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia in comparison to our white counterparts. And so, again, this is why it's so important for us to take a minute and to learn about this and see that it's very important for us to see what's going on and then understand how we can reduce our risk. And that's the brain health part, David. What are those things that we can reduce our risk? And again, there's no age toward that. So you can be 60 or 70, and it's never too late to engage in brain health activities to reduce your risk.
Well, that's why we have this program, and that's why we have this
Yes.
platform to help that disparity and to reduce that gap. And so I'm going to hand it off to Jean for the first question for this afternoon.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Epps, for being with us. That was very informative, what you've shared with us already. However, can you provide information regarding dementia to us now? Specific information.
Yes, I can. And so I don't know if y'all noticed when I talked a little bit early, I said dementia, Alzheimer's, and
Yes.
a lot of people tend to use those terms interchangeably. And so I want to
Changeably.
start right,
Mhm.
yeah, to say that they're not the same thing.
Mhm.
And so, if we look at dementia is a umbrella term. It's not a single disease. It's almost like
Mhm.
heart disease. Heart disease is that umbrella term, and there's so many types of heart disease, right? Same things with dementia. And when you hear the term dementia, it's a term that represents a loss of memory, some problems with language, problem solving, and thinking abilities. So that all encompasses dementia. And so I want people to think again, y'all heard me, a loss of memory, problems with your language, problem solving, and thinking abilities. So, because so many people think, oh, it just affects your memory, and it's a brain disease. And so anything that your brain controls, this is what this dementia can impact. And the things that I just said is just the main things that people start to recognize. And there's several different types. I mentioned, Alzheimer's disease is the number one type of dementia or the number one cause of dementia, however you want to look at it. And so that's why you always hear people say Alzheimer's disease, because that is the number one kind. That's the number that's common, the most common. But there's over 70 types. So you may hear vascular dementia, Lewy body, frontotemporal dementia, mixed dementia, and then I can go on and on and on. So there's so many different types, but overall, I like to use the term. I try my best to stick with just using the term dementia, because that's again the umbrella term, and each disease will come with additional signs and symptoms that families and persons
Mhm.
living with that dementia
Mhm.
just would need to be aware of.
So what is some major hesitancies around this vaccine?
Because I ask younger people all the time, why haven't you gotten the shot? A lot of people say, well, my mom hasn't gotten it. And so I think people are impacted by the parents and whatever reasons they have for not getting it. I don't know if you heard Nicki Minaj put out information about her cousin having his testicles swollen,
Yes.
and of course that took off, went viral.
Can we clarify that? Can we clarify that the vaccine did not cause his testicles to be enlarged?
None of that. I mean, we do have some risk associated with the vaccine, but the things that we hear out in the public aren't what they are.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Why do we want to forgive? I'll make it an easy answer for you so that we can move on, grow, coexist, and free ourselves and other people. As long as we are unforgiving, it keeps us tethered to that hurt. And I think that's why forgiveness is so hard, because it requires a lot of work of self.
When you talk about the different types of dementia, can you give us a little bit? I know we talked about full frontal. I had an offline conversation, and that appears to be one that we are very, very familiar with outside of just memory loss. Can you give a description of how one may behave based upon the different types of dementia that you just described with family members?
So that's a hard question to answer, Dr. Mitchell, because everybody presents, and I say it's hard because everybody presents differently. So when you meet one person with a form of dementia, you've only met that one person. We cannot say that this person did this, so that means my mama is going to start doing this when she shows these signs, or when she starts showing signs and symptoms. And so that's why it's a hard question. What I can discuss is what you may see overall, and that you can pick up when you're at home and in a work setting. Those are the two main places that other people start recognizing that someone has a problem with their memory or their cognition. At work and at home, especially during the pandemic, because people are spending more time at home. But one of the things is, of course, the short-term memory. So you'll start noticing that someone's short-term memory is not there. So they do not remember something that maybe just occurred 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. And they'll start repeating themselves, but they can remember something that happened 10 and 15 years ago. Losing their purse and wallet is another big thing that you'll start to see. And here, I mean, I misplace my wallet sometimes, not too often, because I want to make sure, but I end up finding it. But with this person, they will never find it. And they had all good intentions, and they put that person at top of that closet to the right, because they had company coming over, right? And they good intentions. But when the company has gone, they say someone has stole my wallet. And I bet you that was little, so-and-so stole my purse. And all is up there, but they will call their daughter who lives 2 states away and complain. And then this is when family conflict happens. because that daughter is 2 states away, don't really understand this and know that that purse is in the top of that closet. So those are the things, and they always will accuse someone of stealing it. So these are the things that we see. Paying bills, they'll stop paying bills, and it's not, again, y'all, it's the condition that's going on. It's not them doing this on purpose. And so I tell families, like when I go home to visit my mom, I do want to pay attention to see if there's any bills hanging around that she just don't pay. And I think we need to pay attention to that, because if we don't, and we just think our parents or our family members have it all together, and we find out when there's an eviction sticker on the door or notice. And I had one family member said, just so happened they was helping their parents clean, and they lifted up the tablecloth on the dining room table, and all the mortgage bills were right there unpaid. And they caught it just enough of time. So, so I'm just giving you examples of how paying bills can become a real serious problem. But these are the things that you'll see. Preparing meals, they won't be able to follow that recipe that they've always done and always been able to prepare. And then traveling outside of the neighborhood, and so they will get lost. So these are the things that will actually, you'll start seeing in persons that start exhibiting signs and symptoms that should alarm you. Okay, wait, we need to follow up with a physician, see what's going on. Behavior problems, I think you was trying to allude to this, Dr. Mitchell, that there's a change in behavior for some individuals, especially with the frontotemporal dementia. These persons, if they've been calm all their life, they may become more aggressive. And you're like, where is this coming from? And they have some couples that end up getting divorced behind this, because they didn't go and try to seek out and follow up with the doctor to see what's going on, if there is a medical condition that's causing this. But, this person can become aggressive, can become abusive. And, we're thinking it's the person, but it's the condition. They can start stealing things from the store. With frontotemporal dementia, their process to make correct decisions, to know right from wrong, is impaired. And so they tend to steal things from the store. They become compulsive. They tend to touch people in inappropriate places. They tend to do a lot of things that end up getting them arrested and in jail. And so there's a movement out where they're trying to educate the justice system about this, because a lot of people that exhibit these behaviors come across the police, and guess what happens, right? No questions asked. They're arrested, and no one knows, where does this come from? But I can keep, as y'all see, I can talk on and on and on, but I'm pause.
It's Dr. Epps.
Amazing.
As you was talking about this, we talked a little bit before we went online about my stepmother who's deceased. And we experienced all those things with her. From the hiding things. She would take my father's wallet and hide it. He couldn't find his wallet with his license. Sometimes he'd have to go get a new license. There was money that was missing. And then she would accuse him of taking her money.
Taking it. Yeah.
Her money. There was a time when they were actually driving and she got aggressive and he had to really pull the car over. I mean, it was, and we kept sharing these things. I mean, gosh, I wish I had known you 5-6 years ago. Because we recognized it. When I say we, me and my siblings, and we were sharing these things, but then we were being accused of being the hateful stepchildren. Seriously. But we recognized, and even when we shared it with her family, they were in denial. And so this was a cycle that went on. So, and it's interesting that you said the you call it the front
Front lobe.
front lobe.
Yes, frontal
Yeah.
temporal lobular, or FTLD, FTD. I should say FTD.
Okay.
That's what we're going to say
FTD.
from here on out.
Okay.
FTD.
All right, and not the floor, and not the florist people who are looking on. But again, because it's really because I'm as one who's gone through it. So this, as we've had these conversations, I'm having all these memories and these thought processes. And when she eventually got to a point where we had to put her in a facility, and her family came to, we started going through the house and finding all these things, as you were saying, taking things and pat racking, and it's I could just go on. So I'm actually living in size. I'm doing this show and going to try to stay in the moment, but it really is.
Yes.
I'm having a wow moment right now.
Okay, I keep on saying self-reflection, but it's true. This is what I really think.
How do you recognize what you can do based off of what you want to do?
Come on, being honest with yourself. How can I fit this into my schedule? I think it's really being honest with yourself. And if you're in a hierarchy kind of organization, being honest with the people that manage you and are over you.
Severe weather can strike anytime, anywhere, but there's a simple way to stay safe. Hey, Jim Cantore here. I stay safe in dangerous weather by planning ahead. You can stay safe too with a few easy steps. Build an inexpensive kit with supplies for your family's needs. Write down important information like phone numbers and medications. Always talk with your family, and remember any pets in your planning. Be ready, be safe. Start your plan today at ready.gov/plan.
You and I have been talking about womanism. And so somebody in our audience may be saying, what is that? So could you give us a quick and dirty definition of womanism?
Basically, womanism is the intersection of it's a liberation theology, intersection of Black theology and feminist theology, where Black women were left out. It is a way that we look at the world and we fight for Black people, for all people, and we elevate Black women, whether it's theological, literary, but it's really about Black women being free to be Black women and fighting for the community.
When you talk about these statistics regarding African Americans, I guess just two things. Is what are the statistics reflected in various types of dementia for African Americans? For one, that's one thing. Is there one that affects us more, or is there a genetic? Is it a genetic
it's
kind
more
of
men or
connection
women
to that and to the disease? I don't know
Yeah,
if I made
and
that
so I got it, David.
Okay.
And so, yes, there is one form of dementia that tends to impact communities of color more than the other, and that is vascular dementia. And vascular dementia is when there is a disruption that's with the cardiovascular system, right? So it's related to the heart. And so all of those conditions that occur in the communities of color, like diabetes, hypertension, all them, the strokes, kidney problems that our communities plagued with, those are risk factors for vascular dementia. And I take my time and I speak on this a little bit long. I would like to speak on this a little bit longer because we are getting diagnosed with those things earlier. So like just a few years ago, I got diagnosed with hypertension. I became so scared because I know if I didn't go to the doctor and start taking medicines, I know what was going to happen to me. So not only were things happening in, my legs might have been swelling up, or I might have been having other problems, but things I couldn't see was happening in my brain. And so those are some of the things I want to make sure that we are aware of, those that are in their 30s, late 20s, and their 40s that are getting diagnosed with these conditions, how important it is that we take care of them and manage them. And just because you wake up one day and say, I feel good, I'm not taking my medicine, and the next day I feel good, things are still happening. Unless you're cleared by your physician, things are happening inside your body that you cannot see. And as it relates to dementia, 8 to 20 years beforehand, things are occurring, and we do not see those signs and symptoms that we just talked about until 8 to 20 years later. And so that's how important it is right now for everyone to try to engage in brain health activities and do things. And so I think I answered the first part of your question, David.
No, you really did. I mean, because again, you said something about now let me ask something that's not, is there any of this related to diet? Because again, African Americans, we talk about high blood pressure and all that. Is there anything dietary that we do? Because we know we eat a little different than everybody else.
That's right.
Is there a role that plays?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, because how do you get diabetes? Or for the most part, because some of it is, hereditary, or but all of this is from eating, right? From our lifestyle, eating and not exercising. And so it's not that these conditions do not impact all. It's just more prevalent in our community because of the lifestyle that we have. And I want to say, y'all, it's not our fault. All the time, it's not our fault. It's also, I've worked with a lot of policy because it's our communities overall as well, right? Because a lot of things are not placed in proximity to the Black communities or the communities of color, where they can have more healthier choices as it relates to eating. There's some places don't have, where they can have access to places where they can safely walk and exercise. So there's a lot of things that, while I'm out here working and trying to educate the community, I'm also trying to do things on a policy side to make sure that we can have these things. And, again, I would just want to make sure I clarify with the vascular dementia, that's vascular vessels. So any condition that you may have, because I just named a few, but anything that you may have and the doctor says something with your vessels, that is actually a risk factor for vascular dementia. Women are more prone to be impacted by dementia as getting diagnosed or becoming a caregiver.
Wow.
So there's a lot of literature now that is focused on women taking care of themselves. There's literature out there that talks about menopause, hormonal changes that have been linked to dementia. So it's really important for us as women that's listening and, for us to really pay attention and take care of ourselves.
If you're just tuning in, you're looking at Forever Young, and we're talking with Dr. Fayron Epps, and our topic today is dementia and Alzheimer's, and we're distinguishing the two, how it affects us, the signs, and of course, most recently, she was just talking about the disparity as it relates to African Americans. But you did say a key word, caregivers. And I think Jean has a question about caregivers and how they're affected.
And I have another question I want to ask her when she mentioned about the diet. Can you explain just a little bit more about the diet as it relates to dementia? I'm not sure if that's one of our questions. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's no worries. It's as it relates to the diet, is I hate to use the word good and bad, right? But those foods that put us at risk for getting hypertension and those, so that's the fried food, right? fried foods, fried foods, fried foods. That's like one of the biggest
Yep,
things.
that's it.
And you know, I'm
Okay,
from
that's how.
Louisiana. Yeah, and so you know, it really don't even matter what color. We all eat bad, especially down there.
Right, right.
Um, but I'm glad you brought that up because people want to like, well, what should I be eating? And there's
Right.
so much literature and so much been on TV about heart healthy diets, right? Diets that people are promoting that takes care of your heart, y'all, it also takes care of your brain. There is a direct linkage, and I'm hoping
Wow.
we're making it here tonight. All right. And so with exercise and eating the right diet, staying within our calorie intake, and I won't say no, and you know, you cannot have fried foods and stuff, but again, we've all heard it. It's about moderation, right?
Yes,
And if we're going to
yes.
reverse these
Yes.
statistics, we need to make sure that we look at what are those things that we can do. There's one thing I want to share before we go to caregivers, Ms. Jean. By 2030, so right now, I don't know if y'all know, in the state of Georgia, there are approximately like between, I think it's 130, 140 individuals that have a diagnosis of dementia. And so this is expected to increase by 2030 to 190. So in 2019, it was 130, and they're expecting by 2030, that's less than 10 years, it'll be 190,000 individuals. Also, by 2030, 40% across the country, 40% of individuals that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia, 40% of those individuals will either be Black or Latino. So I really want to stress the urgency for us to become educated and learn how we can reduce our risk so we can reverse statistics. And I will say, I can bring it up now or later, but you know, we promote people doing the brain guide or checking their memory, doing brain health activity, and knowing your, know your numbers. You know, wasn't there a campaign like know your numbers?
Yes.
But brain wasn't in there. But we do need to know our numbers, because when you do a memory screening, you can get a score. And I tell people, you can get this at any age. People, I'm not old yet. I don't need that. Yes, you do. Because you need to know your baseline and you take it. And if you're 65 and older, when you go to the doctor, they are supposed to do this. This is part of your annual wellness visit. They actually get reimbursed more money when they do their screening. Wow. And so I want to make sure I share that. So when you go to the doctor, and if you're 65 and above and you Medicare, you can say, did you do my screening, my memory screening? Because you know, I do want us all to know where we stand. And you know, some people say, I don't want to know. And I'm not going to argue, but I want to encourage for us to know, so we'll know what kind of things. There is no cure, but there's things that we can do to help ourselves, to help our families as we go throughout this journey. You know, and I know, Dr. Mitchell, you probably have had so many families come to you as the journey is progressing. And it's bad. It's because if they didn't put things in place beforehand, it causes so much turmoil for families and for that caregiver. So here we go, Ms. Jean. Now we back on the caregiver.
Okay.
Like how
all right. Let me just ask this one question. How are people living with dementia and their caregivers affected by this disease?
Yeah. Perfect. So I was looping right there. I didn't even know that was your question.
Yes.
You know, if they I'm sorry, let me fix this hair. Oh my God. If we do not put proper things in place, it's so much turmoil as the disease progresses, right? Because that person may, and to a certain point, they can be involved in decision making. But as to get to severe dementia, there's 3 main stages. You have your early, moderate, and severe. Severe, usually they cannot be involved in decision making. And if you did not take that time beforehand and understand it, they probably gonna be calling the pastor and say, help, and just bringing all these issues, and to me, that's a lot that I see in the community. Also, but for that caregiver itself, they tend not to take care of themselves. So once they start this caregiving journey, they forget about themselves. They become selfless, which is not. I mean, I say sometimes I'm selfless, and so I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But when you're on this journey, you have to make sure you take care of yourself, and that you go to the doctor yourself, so you can remain healthy to take care of your family member or friend that is living with dementia. We have seen so many caregivers that will pass away before the person living with dementia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're caring for it, right? And so we want to make sure that I stress that caregivers need to take care of themselves, because even though that being a caregiver can be rewarding, because a lot of people talk about how stressful it is. It's stressful, but it can be rewarding, but it can be stressful too at the same time, because it's a lot. You're managing a household, you take care of that, your family, your friend, and every situation is different. We don't know all stressors that people have going on. It causes anxiety. The reason I say anxiety is because when you're in public, this is just an example, you're in public and you have someone, your family has dementia, you don't know how they're going to respond to certain things. That can bring on a lot of anxiety for a person. Because you don't know if they're going, let's talk about church. They bring them to church. We don't know if they're going to blurt out at the so-say wrong time.
Right.
If they're going to start unbuttoning their shirt,
Right.
And so that's anxiety that's always there. You're always on the edge, burden. No one's there to help you. And, there's several times the reason why no one's there to help caregivers. First of all, sometimes caregivers don't tell nobody, because what goes on in this house stays on this house. That's it. I'm not going to tell nobody what's going on. Some people feel that I can do it all by myself. Especially the Black women, we have that superwoman.
Right.
And then also, as we wrap up, one of the things is family is not there. So there's some great family support, but then there are some families that they don't have great support within the families. And so that just makes it so burdensome for caregivers and for these families.
Well, Dr. Epps, this has been so informative. And you know what? We never have enough time, because, as they say, it's just getting juicy, so to speak. The conversation is really just getting good. So if I can impose on you to come back and do a part 2, it would be great, because there's so much, there's so much on the table that we haven't gotten to. And you've been such a wealth of knowledge and a great guest. I like people who talk.
Amen.
Haven't talked much.
Yes.
I love that. So if we can count on you so we can do a part 2, we would love to. So I need to get your commitment in front of all these millions of people.
Oh, you're all in front of everybody? Okay. I'll give you my commitment if I can give out a phone number.
I was just going to tell you to say that just before we leave and wrap. Tell us some information, how people can get in contact with you or learn more about what your expertise is about.
Yeah, so most definitely I will come back to do a part 2. But I want to make sure that for those that are interested after this conversation or listening, want to check their memory, you can do it in the privacy of your own home. Just logging into mybrainguide.org. Or you can call 1-855-272-4641. 1-855-272-4641, or log into mybrainguide.org. And this is something you can do in your own home. If you have a concern about your own memory or a family member or friend's memory, they give you a questionnaire, and then they will give you suggestions on where to go next. And to reach me, I'll just throw my number out there. You can reach me at 678-723-8188, or just Google my name and all my information come up.
I like
And you
that
can
when
feel
you say,
Excellent.
I'm Googleable.
Yeah,
Yes.
just Google me. Everything comes up, and feel free. Any questions you all have, you can reach out to me, or most definitely get in touch with Dr. Mitchell, and she can connect you to me. And thank you all so much.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you again.
Right,
We've
thank
been
you.
talking with Dr. Fayron Epps, the nurse with over 20 years of experience and currently assistant professor at Emory University, and Mel Hopkins Woodruff School of Nursing, and the principal investigator of Faith Village, a research lab. And we've been talking about dementia. On behalf of my guests, our guests, and my co-host, Dr. Sharon Mitchell, and Miss Jean Hendricks, and our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., and the entire Hope TV organization, we want to thank you for joining us and want you to remember, you are forever young because age ain't nothing but a number. Until next week, we say goodbye.
Why do we want to forgive? I'll make it an easy answer for you so that we can move on, grow, coexist, and free ourselves and other people. As long as we are unforgiving, it keeps us tethered to that hurt. And I think that's why forgiveness is so hard, because it requires a lot of work of self.